All right, I'm going to start, Turtle Boy and Dave, by reading a story. It's just a quick TMZ story about Demi Lovato, and ask you this question. You can ponder it as I read. How could you not make fun of this? How could you not make fun of Demi Lovato's new status as a they? Here's just a quick story. It says Demi Lovato has an announcement about their personal life as they launch something new professionally. It's that Demi now identifies as non-binary, therefore they're changing pronouns. The singer revealed they're happy to share the very personal moment on their podcast. Demi went on to say changing I can't even read it. Changing their identification best represents the fluidity they feel in their gender expression, allowing them to feel more authentic and true. How can you read that? And first of all, I've read it like 3 times, and it's still confusing. It's still awkward. It doesn't work. How can someone say we must support Demi Lovato and change singular words to plural to just satisfy this kind of bizarre moment in her life? You can change from he to she, and I can handle that. I do it with Caitlyn Jenner and whoever. I can't do this. I can't do they. It's confusing. It's dumb, and I don't really understand.
Well, it's made up.
Yeah, it's made, but
it's made
is she going to keep that up? I mean, does she really believe? I'm sorry. Is they going to keep that up? Does they really believe
grammatically incorrect?
does they really believe they can keep that up like forever? I mean, first of all, I don't want to say she's clinically insane, but this is obviously a troubled young woman.
Oh, she has a significant history of addiction and mental health issues,
suicide, and everything else.
Her biggest addiction, her biggest disease is liberalism, Gerry. And I'm not even kidding around. Like don't you think it's what was it? The boy from the abortion movie, Ellen Page. What was her name? Is she Elliot?
Ellen is now Elliot.
Right. Don't you think it's kind of like a coincidence that it's always the same kind of people that become transgender? It's never conservative.
Sure. But see, you can, and she's not transgender. She's
whatever,
non-binary.
But she's on the spectrum.
Fine, if you want to call yourself non-binary. But here's why we bring this up, of course, and we're going to get to Boston radio legend Maddie Siegel, who stormed out of the studio yesterday. Something I've never done, by the way. Very unprofessional. But Maddie stormed out of the studio because the program director was telling him what not to talk about, which it amazes me. He's been there 40 years, and this is the first time they told him, don't talk about that, get off that. Actually, I guess they told him to lay off Trump at one point, but because he was ripping Trump, which is amazing. I've never heard of a program director telling a host of any show, TV, radio, podcast, to go easy on Trump. I mean, that's unusual, but he wasn't pulled off the air. He didn't storm out of the studio. In this case, he calls himself, a comedy show, or a comedian on a comedy show, and he was making fun of Demi Lovato. And the program director told him to stop it. He couldn't handle that. He stormed out. It was big, big news in Boston. In fact, it's big, big news outside of Boston. Let me read you quick the headline from the Daily Mail. I saw this morning. Boston shock jock, who's been on the air for 40 years, storms off his show after being told he can't make fun of Demi Lovato's binary status. That's the first time I've ever heard Maddie Siegel referred to as a shock jock, but and the first time he's ever stormed out. But I mean, I would like to rip Maddie and mock Maddie, but this is incredible that you can't poke fun at somebody who wants to be referred to as they, as a plural. What else are you going to do? What else are you supposed to do? What is he supposed to do in that situation?
Talk about how brave they is. Have you thought about that? That's really what you're supposed to do.
They is so.
Now, do we say they are, or do we say they?
That's a good question. They are. So, yes, they do. I'm reading you the TMZ story, and I guarantee you the writer. This is 4 or 5 paragraphs. I guarantee you the writer. This probably took 3 hours because you can't type it. It comes up with the little line under it because it's incorrect.
We've destroyed biology and the English language in one shot. Good job. Good job.
We don't know. Nobody knows exactly what Maddie said because the audio is not public. Yep. We know what he said when he stormed off and said, which, by the way, as I said, yes,
nothing better than a good "Do you know who I am?" rant. By the way, that's great. Right. That was great.
That wouldn't be my recommendation to say I'm the biggest star ever. You can't do this to me. Well,
and by the way, I'll tell you that you did not deserve to be included in that list when you're being requested to go on Tom Shattuck's podcast to comment. All right.
Yeah, so I can't turn Shattuck down though. Shattuck is. He's part of the family. So
I'm just glad you allowed him to record the video like he wanted.
What was he doing before? I don't, whatever. I did a podcast with Shattuck and my old partner and sometimes friend yesterday when we talked about Maddie. And here's the latest. Here's the update. He stormed out of the studio. Everyone was wondering, would he come back? I thought, my guess was he would take a couple of days and come back Monday because he makes so much money. And I know he's been there 40 years. I know he probably has enough money to make it through his retirement. But the one thing I've talked about with him a few times, I used to know him. I played golf with him a few times and talked to him. He would brag, he would laugh about how easy the job is. He would literally say he walks in the studio for a 6:00 show at 6:10. And he told me he doesn't know any of the music they play or any of the singers. And he just makes jokes and walks out at 10:00. He would marvel even after 40 years how easy it is and how much money he makes for it. So
yeah, but I'll give him a little credit. He earned it, right? Like it wasn't as easy at the start.
No, he's charity. Of course he earned it. What do you mean he earned it? Well, they paid him the money.
Every time you talk about it.
He had good ratings. Yeah. He had good ratings. He has good ratings, a good demo, young women. Clearly, if you're selling to young women, you go to Matt. He was always kicking ass among women, and occasionally.
Can you name for me one memorable show he's ever had?
No. This is the first time.
What impact the team? That's what I'm most upset about when I'm seeing this story is like this guy is being credited with being Boston's shock jock.
Oh, don't get into that. No, I mean we can't give you examples because he's just
huge.
Daily's routine. Everybody listens to him.
He's not known for being controversial.
No, he's definitely not known for being.
But that's how he's being presented to the national media.
He's edgier than Carson and Kennedy. He's edgier than David Allen.
He's edgier than Delilah. Yeah. Oh,
that's what he said. He said there are plenty of boring music stations, and he named them. Here's what I'm going to say. No, and again, he makes a lot of money, and he doesn't he doesn't cause any trouble. He's a dream for a radio station general manager, a program director. He's huge. He's famous. He makes a lot of money and sells a lot of ads, brings in a lot of revenue, and never, ever ruffles any feathers. That's a dream for them, and he's done it well for a long time. Hats off to him. God bless him. He's certainly a better radio host than he is a golfer. Let me put it that way. I've played him a few times and plays every day, and it's not working.
Not good. Yeah,
not good. Not that I'm much better, but anyway. Turtle Boy makes a good point. He doesn't do this. He doesn't get in trouble. He doesn't storm out of the studio. He doesn't say things that offend people, but he hasn't changed. I mean, he's been on that station 40 years. Before that, he was on BCN middays between Charles Laquadera and Mark Parento. And by the way, Mark Parento was a deviant, child, sexual deviant, and everybody there knew it. That was a different time, different era. Anyway, Matty Siegel, hasn't changed. The times have, the standards have, the rules have. When you think about what he did, what he did? We don't have the sound, but what he did, Turtle Boy, was what we just did. He said, this is ridiculous. I understand the woman has got some issues. She's been through some, substance abuse and mental health issues. But I can't play along with this. I can't use a plural pronoun for a singular person. I'm going to guess he just said this is ridiculous, and it is. But we got to this point where this is so, radioactive. This topic, not just transgender, but the whole, gender, sexuality, realm. You go there, you're playing with fire. He didn't probably think it because he's like, this is what I do. I make fun of big stars. I make fun of celebrities, pop stars. I poke fun at them. And he could have poked fun at whatever, her music or her love life, whatever. He could have made fun of her shoes, and that would have been fine. But you can't make fun of someone's gender. That's off limits for comedians, for radio hosts, for anyone. That's what he learned. What we already knew. You guys knew.
Well, speaking of that, a commenter makes a good point. This smells of Murchison. Smells of it.
Well, Murchison, if it is, he's just getting started. It's just getting started. He doesn't just make a call and make a complaint, which is what happened. The program director told Maddie Siegel, and Maddie was shocked, which means he's never told what to say. He's never told to move on from a topic. But the program director told him to stop talking about Demi Lovato's gender, whatever, sexuality. That sounds like Murchison, but if it is, he's only just begun, because Maddie's back on the air today. That's the news.
Yep.
And I'll give him credit. Give Maddie credit. He came back on the air and he didn't apologize. And that's normally what happens. You give a fake, totally insincere apology and you say, we're moving on. That's usually how these things work. I guarantee his boss or his boss's boss or his, whatever, someone at iHeart said, just apologize and move on. He didn't do that. For that, I give Maddie Siegel a lot of credit. And by the way, he admitted,
which by the way,
he's coming back. Let me finish. He admitted he's coming back because he makes so much money.
Oh, sure. But it makes me think. That's why it makes me think it's just a PD who plays scared, like you guys talk all the time. I don't know if they have a text line in that studio. I didn't hear anything about backlash. I didn't hear any rumors about a person called and complained or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if the PD just heard it and said, we don't touch this shit. We're going to take shit for it, and pulled the plug on it. And that's what you're talking about, playing scared when there was no problem created. I know when I listen to Maddie, he's making jokes. I know, just like when I go to a comedy show.
When do you listen to Maddie?
Well, when I used to listen to Maddie.
That's right up Dave's alley. Are you kidding me?
I love Maddie. Maddie's
music,
great.
little gossip, little TMZ.
What is a day in the life of Dave Cullen?
Maddie is, first of all, Maddie is great. Come on. First of all, he has huge ratings. He is funny. I guess for top 40. He's edgy for top 40. I know what's great on the scale.
Everybody likes him. It's amazing. Everybody likes him, which means, he's doing something right. And everyone's defending him in this case, except, as you point out, there's some activists out there. There's some people who don't want him going there, which to me, and we talk about this every day, this is cancel culture. This people who want to cancel him for talking about something that's perfectly appropriate. I mean, it's what he does. He's a comedian. He's a jokester. He talks about pop stars and pop music. Of course he's going to talk about Demi Lovato. Is he supposed to talk about her without mentioning, I shouldn't say it, is he supposed to talk about they and without mentioning how absurd that is?
This is possible. This is what somebody just put in the chat too. It's a preemptive move that then causes the problem, right? We always said this in radio. It's not that you said fuck on the air. It's that you said it, it got dumped, and you talked about the fact that you said it that got the 20 people to make an FCC complaint. It's the fact that then he goes on the air to bitch about the program director, which he should have done. Good instincts, obviously. Right. And then you start getting the Boston Globe all of a sudden to start getting quotes from the LGBTQ community, stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Did the Globe do that?
Yes. Yeah, I can read it right now. Public understanding of what it means to be non-binary is growing, and listeners expect better from the media and people with a platform. Rodrigo Head-Lenahan, Deputy Executive Director for the National Center for Transgender Equality, wrote, when a prominent person such as Demi Lovato shares their story, it matters. It tells other non-binary folks that they are not alone. Lovato and other non-binary and trans people are worthy of respect. We are not jokes or punchlines. We're your neighbors, co-workers.
Oh, God. See, that's maybe you're right, Turtle Boy. Maybe it is the first step in a campaign, because this is how it works. You get the Globe on your side, which isn't hard. Yes. The Globe is always looking to join the mob. And if you step out of line and you dare say anything politically incorrect about someone's gender or non-binary status, get ready. They'll come after you. As we know, the Globe is the woke, the media wing of the woke mob. It's what they do. And if there's an activist or two, like this gentleman that Dave just quoted, who really want to get you, they'll keep coming. They'll keep coming, and they'll make life difficult for Maddie. I just think Maddie is so rare for him to say something, controversial or over the line. That's why it's such big news. I mean, if this were Howard Stern, or it wouldn't be a story. It'd just be, he pissed people off again, and the phone calls.
Well, that's what makes it a story. Is that like, okay, so people, they came after you and they came after Kirk, and they're like, okay, well, those guys are controversial. They delve into things. They're going after the top 40 guy now. They're going after this guy. Like this is the harmless Maddie in the morning. I mean, milk toast. Maddie, what are we doing here?
But it's literally this issue. It's literally this issue. Like, do you think Maddie, let's call it 2 weeks ago, remember when that cop did the viral video that was literally everybody in the world was talking about it?
The LeBron James one?
LeBron James one. That's prime time for top 40 to laugh about and joke. So it's okay to talk about issues like that either, depending on what side you're on, but you go to this issue, the trans issue, and first of all, people don't understand it. It takes time for people to normalize calling somebody they. Whether you think whether you think you'll never do it or not, that shit takes time.
I'll bet you if she just said, I'm no longer a female, I'm identifying as male, and you could read the story just saying he, and it sounded normal, then Maddie probably wouldn't make a big deal. We wouldn't. I mean, I'd be like just another person, like Ellen became Elliot Page.
And he gets praised for talking and like normalizing it, right? He gets praised.
We didn't make fun of, I don't remember, did we make fun of Elliot Page? It wasn't a big deal. It was, like, whatever, that's your thing. And
it's almost expected. Like, and all of this, by the way, is just for attention.
Right, I was going to say.
It's just narcissism, like me. Nobody gives a shit what your pronouns are. Nobody cares. You're not that relevant. Shut up and sing. That's your job. You're not that interesting. You have a boring life, and you're looking for a way to make yourself interesting. That's all this is.
And it's amazing. You sit there and you look at the news headlines, and it's war in the Middle East, and it's whatever coronavirus, and it's China building in the middle, and it's then this narcissistic pop star says, you can't call me by a singular pronoun anymore. Of course you make fun of that. I mean, the idea that, so what are you telling me if Dave Chappelle or Sebastian Maniscalco or whatever, takes the stage tomorrow, or even whatever, Lenny Clark takes the stage and says, how about this pop star, Demi Lovato? We have to call her they, and you say how absurd that is, that they're gonna come after you. That is frightening. And this should be, I don't want to say a wake-up call, but this is a big story, because this isn't a guy who you normally expect this from. They're coming after 71-year-old Matty Siegel, and maybe because he's white and he's old, that's two strikes against him. But he doesn't normally do this. And what he did, and we don't know exactly what he did because we don't have the sound. I'm going to guess if you heard it right now, Turtle Boy Dave, we'd say that's it. Are you serious? That's it? He made fun of her pronouns? He didn't even really attack her. He just made fun of her pronouns. We would say that is scary. That's, the next step in the culture war. And if they're going to take out Maddie, nobody's safe. We already knew that, but nobody's safe. And Cullinane's right.
Who's next? Dale Arnold next? Like, who are you going to go after next? Rich Keefe?
Mike Greenberg?
What are we doing here?
It's like, right. We asked that when that Chris Harrison, loser from what show is he on?
The Bachelor.
The Bachelor.
Great show.
And he was just the lamest, just the eunuch. I mean, he was just pathetic. And all he was doing was trying to defend somebody. And he said, what happened to our compassion? It was lame. And they turned that on him and got rid of him. I mean, Chris Harrison lost his job.
Don't get me started on that.
For doing nothing, for defending someone and just saying, what happened to grace and compassion? That's all.
It's because the Bachelor himself bought into that bullshit. That guy is the biggest tool bag on planet Earth. Oh, my feelings are hurt. I have to dump this woman I picked because she took a picture at a party 5 years ago. It turns out she's not the love of my life. Shut up.
I think
imagine being that injured by a chick. What's wrong with you?
I think I saw a headline that they're back together. So like this whole uproar over now they're in a relationship again. I don't know.
I thought she was in the clan.
Yeah,
I guess not.
You want to hear Matt? You want to hear Maddie's comeback this morning?
Yeah, let's listen to Maddie today. And again, I woke up today and said, please don't apologize, Maddie. Do not do it. And I expected one of these dumb, sorry if I offended anyone. We knew it wouldn't be sincere. We knew it'd just be going through the motions. But to his credit, he did not do that, at least not yet.
I'm here. Good morning. I don't have a speech prepared or anything, so I'll just sort of talk. Basically, to review what happened is that I was on a roll. I haven't been on a roll in a long time. I mean, it's obvious, I've been frustrated and, we've been doing a lot of stuff on the radio that I don't care about. I'm not interested in, and I've been frustrated. Yesterday, I did a show where I wasn't frustrated. I was really having fun. I thought I was being funny. I mean, it's hard to judge, but basically, you can tell when you're on. And so I was really having a good time, and then I stumbled onto a topic that is a sensitive one with Demi Lovato, and I was upset with her and her statement about the pronouns. I thought it was ridiculous, and I talked about it, and I told jokes. I mean, that's what we do. It's a jokey show. Anyway, here's the point. So when I was feeling on a roll and really enjoying it and feeling like the old Maddie on the air, that's when I got the call to stop talking about it. And I just snapped. I said, I just can't be here anymore.
Which I wish he would have went there. And he goes into, this is a good part here. He goes into, he goes in the censorship part, but I wish he would have said if people reached out. Like, I wish he would have said, did complaints come into the station before this call? And then it would make a little bit of sense. But instead, we're doing all these preemptive moves.
Well, somebody complained, Dave. A program director doesn't do that on his own, especially to a Maddie Siegel. Somebody complained. It might not have been an activist. It might have been a executive at iHeart, because let's be that all they care about is the feelings of pop stars. That's the top priority at iHeart, to make sure these pop stars are happy, so they do concerts and appearances for them. So maybe it was that, or maybe it was some salesperson. Could have been an activist, or just people listening, but somebody complained.
If we live in a world where you can't say what you want to say, and I'm talking about I'm not talking about swearing and obvious things that we don't do on the radio, but I mean within the traditional radio boundaries, if I can't say what I'm thinking, then I don't want to do it anymore. And I get paid well. I don't want to walk away from the money. And, it's for my children. This is my children's legacy financially. I don't want to walk away from it. I mean, this is their inheritance that we're talking about now. That's a big move to quit. If we
basically, I'm a sellout.
I'm like, you know what?
But he's also always admitted that. Like, he's always admitted it.
Dave, we're not criticizing him. It's unbelievable. I feel like I'm talking about Dave's mother or something. Little boy takes one little shot at Maddie. It's like, no, Maddie's great. He's great. We like Maddie.
You don't like dissenting opinion around here anymore?
I'm saluting Maddie. I'm tipping my cap, my Shea Concrete cap, to Maddie. He came back, and two things. He did not issue a phony apology, and he admitted he's coming back for the money. That's honest. I appreciate that. And he said all he did to get in trouble was what he normally does. He didn't do anything unusual. He didn't screw up and swear or use a forbidden term. He just mocked and ridiculed this narcissist head case, Demi Lovato. We're giving him credit, right, Turtle Boy? We're giving him credit.
A little bit, yes. I bet you the ratings today are the highest they've ever been.
Right, exactly. Sure. I mean, that's the first time I've heard Maddie's voice in like years. Again, he does great, but it's mostly with young women, and the advertisers love that. Young women and Dave Callahan. That's people who want to hear him play the hits.
Yes, yeah, and he does that well. He does it well.
And he admits he doesn't know the music like you do. He doesn't care about the music like you do. I give him credit for that. He's one of these people, and he reminds me of like he's got no real soul. He just does what he does. It's like, and he admits it. It's like, he's not doing anything on principle. He's just like, hey, I got to do this for my kids. I'm trying to give them some inheritance here. He's very practical.
You went on with Shattuck. You and Kirk went on and discussed this yesterday. And you mentioned whether or not the Globe would pick up on it. They obviously did, right? I read the statement. They went out and they got the quotes from the transgender and gay community. You questioned whether or not Maddie had the Globe in his back pocket. He absolutely has the Globe in his back pocket. Billy Costa is all over Nesson with his stupid dining playbook show. Him and Linda Pizzuti are probably best friends. Like, they absolutely do. And they still started the, I mean, I guess they're not good enough friends, because you can't not write about
but here's, you can't tell, because obviously it's a one-day story. Obviously the Globe and everyone else is going to do it. Hell, I just read you the Daily Mail headline about the shock jock. It's in the New York papers. It's a big deal. But we'll see if the Globe continues their campaign, because again, the Globe doesn't care about news. They care about changing the world. I mean, if you want to find a transgender activist, go to the Globe's editorial department. Half the staff are liberal activists. They're not journalists. Again, if they really want to get Maddie because he screwed up and used the wrong pronoun, it'll continue tomorrow and the next day, and they're not going to just make it a one-day thing. And they will team up with actual activists. It's what they do. I mean, some people, you guys, we all realize it, but other people think it's a newspaper, so they think it's news. It's not news. It's a campaign to affect change, to change the world. And if they want to get Maddie, you'll see tomorrow, the next day, if they come after him. But we got to get to our other big story of the day while Turtle Boy is still awake and with us. We can get back to Maddie as you're monitoring what he's saying this morning, Callahan.
Yeah, I'm trying to listen in. That
Right.
seems like he's going to do the same little spiel once an hour.
Is he on Twitter? Does he have a Twitter account?
No, just his show. His show doesn't.
He's not on. He doesn't even live around. He lives in Florida, and he plays golf every day.
How do you expect, if you don't use social media and you barely consume news the way Maddie probably does it, how do you expect a 71-year-old man to identify with that story whatsoever?
You don't. And as other people have said this morning, you got to give Jerry Thornton wrote an excellent piece on this on Barstool. I know, that's rare.
The edgy WNBA Barstool.
But when you make it to Barstool Sports as a guy, you've arrived.
That was Maddie's last words covering.
Oh, really? Yeah, well, good. He did an excellent job, but it's incredible the parameters that are set, that this is actually off limits to make fun of somebody who calls himself they. It's like, that seems like an obvious thing for someone like Maddie to just mock. I'm not saying you want to ruin her life or change the laws or anything, but that's kind of silly to go by a plural pronoun. Whatever. They'll probably, come after us. It's nothing new, but
they're going to turn up the heat, I guess.
We will monitor that. We'll get back to Maddie, but I want to get to this too, because it was kind of big news. I could say I was communicating with Will Kane yesterday, because Will Kane is now doing the 7:00 show on Fox, and he's kicking ass, by the way. The ratings have been great. He's done some great stuff. He might get that gig, but he did a thing. I don't know if you saw it, Turtle Boy, on Benjamin Crump the other night, which was great. It was like 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes of Benjamin Crump's history of representing, victims, and for the money, making a fortune because they get these settlements with the city, and he takes a third, and causing unbelievable destruction. Everywhere he goes, there ends up being, rioting, looting, death, and he lies. It's what he does about every single case, whether it was Jacob Blake or Michael Brown or George Floyd.
Micaiah Bryant, he still has a tweet up saying that she was armed. She was unarmed.
Good point. Micaiah Bryant was unarmed. So he's not even subtle. He tells these flat out lies on Twitter, in front of the cameras, into the microphones. Nobody calls him out because, he's an activist, and he's, another Sharpton. He's a race hustler, a race huckster who uses these crimes, uses these victims, like in this case, Michaela Miller of Hopkinton. And we've talked about it before. Turtle Boy has covered this story better than anyone, which is why everyone's stealing from him now. But to make it even worse, to make it even more of a circus, they bring in Benjamin Crump yesterday. Of course, they didn't do it in person because he doesn't know yet.
It was a day. They should have brought him in last week before the medical examiner said that it was suicide. It was like the worst timing to bring him in.
So they bring him in yesterday on a conference call. So he's joining the team with Monica Cannon Grant, your buddy, Tito Jackson. I'm going to throw Ayanna Presley in that. These people who all are lying, who are using the death of a 16-year-old child and blaming her friends, all for political gain, or in the case of the mother, all for financial gain. So yesterday they bring Crump in, and one of the first things he says is, "Yeah, we believe she was lynched." And I'm like, what? We've already gone over that. The medical examiner gave his report. Turtle Boy has chronicled it with all kinds of receipts. It's an absurd accusation that I thought we had gotten past. But no, they're trying to fire this up again, this hoax, fired up again, that she was lynched by her friends who also happen to be children. Ayanna Presley doesn't care that she's using children for political gain. using their grief. And these are kids, especially her girlfriend, who are suffering. They lost a friend, and at the same time, they're being blamed for it. It's absurd, and it's outrageous. But apparently, it's going to go on and on until the GoFundMe is.
I mean, imagine how hard that is to be this girl right now. You're 16. This is a girl that you were in a relationship with a year. You're obviously close with. You just broke up with her, and now she committed suicide, and you probably feel bad about that. I mean, you're just, who knows what's going on through her head. Like, this is so hard emotionally to put somebody through. And then on top of that, this crazed lunatic comes to town and backed by important people, like a guy who was almost the mayor of Boston and Tito Jackson, and the state Senate president and the mayor of Framingham. And they're all coming to your town insinuating that you're a murderer, because let's put it all on the table. That is what, if you're suggesting that this girl did not kill herself, you are suggesting that she was murdered. And obviously your ex-girlfriend would be the leader of that whole thing. And think of how hard how evil that is to do to a child.
It's your own game. That is evil. You're right. And it's evil that you're the only one, not the only one, but you're the one who's calling them out most consistently and convincingly. It should be in our society that people like Monica Cannon Grant and Tito Jackson and Ayanna Pressley are shamed for this. I mean, using children. Hell, we're talking about a sitting congresswoman. And I know I do this every day. I'm going to continue to do this every day. A sitting congresswoman, an alleged, civil rights advocate, using kids, 16-year-old kids, and implying that they killed their friend. And the outrage, you hear it here every day. You certainly hear it from Turtle Boy, and you read it from Turtle Boy. But where's everybody else? I mean, this is incredible. They're either on their side or they're afraid of them, right? They're either in the mob or they're afraid of the mob. I mean, you have chronicled what a scumbag Monica Cannon Grant is. It's remarkable. And yesterday, she was saying at this conference call, this appearance, she was saying those two of the teenagers. There's 5 teenagers. Does that include Michaela? Is there 4 kids we're talking about
they're talking about 5 besides Michaela?
Okay, 5. And she says 2 of the 5 are either the children or grandchildren of Hopkinton police officers.
Which is the Hopkinton police came out with a statement yesterday making it clear 0 of these children have any family relationships to the Hopkinton Police Department. 0.
So she just on a daily basis
makes it up.
Makes it up. Lies. And she's not making up lies about Donald Trump or Turtle Boy. She's making up lies about innocent 15 and 16-year-olds. This is a woman, again, we've gone over it many times, who has an office paid for by the city of Boston, who gets checks in the mail from guilty white liberals. That's how she makes her money. Who got honored by the Celtics and who else?
The Bruins. The Boston Globe, Boston Magazine is like the most influential reformer around. Sue O'Connell. I mean, name a media outlet that hasn't had her on her show and spotlighted this.
So this woman who lies about children, who talks about being lynched by this gang, just totally made up. This woman is not just free to do this. She's honored for her work. Honored by the Celtics and Bruins and the Boston Globe and Boston Magazine. And it's just incredible. I don't even know how you do it, Turtle Boy. I read the story again. I'm looking at it right now, and it's just so maddening how you could do this. I'll
tell you what's more maddening to me is the fact that NBC stole my story. I mean, they obviously read Turtle Boy. So I published 13 days ago, I get the emails that the girl, her ex-girlfriend, sent her, Michaela's guidance counselor, telling her specifically the girl's suicidal. She's having panic attacks. Mom isn't home. I'm worried about her. It's literally like something you could sue the school over. Like you could say that they knew that this is a problem and they didn't act on that. And I published this. It's a pretty big story. It got a lot of views. Everyone was talking about it. And then 13 days later, NBC's like, ooh, breaking investigative news. We have an email. And then I've never seen a ratio like this before. It was like 100 to 0 comments to likes on Twitter with this. And every single one of them, they have no awareness. It's just turtle emojis. Everybody's just like, are you kidding me?
A white supremacist.
And, you know,
White supremacists, right.
Dave said, I've kissed your ass enough, but you have covered the story. You've proven, even before they made the medical examiner made the statement, you've proven that Monica Cannon Grant and the mother, Calvina Struthers, and Tito Jackson, you've proven they're lying. You proved it. And people either ignore it because they're afraid. Hell, GBH, your taxpayer-funded racket, these welfare recipients, these people who get paid with our money, continued with this lie, advanced this lie. I heard their podcast. They have a podcast, and they have their reporters, quote unquote, talking about, you know, how this was such a suspicious case, and maybe there's a cover-up. You listened to it. You went at the woman. What's her name? Tori, whatever. The
Tori Bedford. Tori Bedford,
alleged reporter who knew. I have to relax.
Yeah, who knows all this? She knows all about the tapes.
She knows everything because she's read you. She knows it's a lie. She knows it's a suicide, but advanced the lie because she's not comfortable not being with the mob, not being with the crazy race hustlers like
it feels good
Crump
for her.
And Cannon Grant. If she's not with them, you know, she doesn't feel right. It's like, oh my God, that means I'm with Turtle Boy. I can't do that. So a GBH reporter, taxpayer-funded reporter, knows it's a suicide, slam dunk, open and shut case, and pretends there might be a cover-up, pretends there might be a scandal here just to placate this mob of liars and race hustlers. That's so despicable. And you know what's going to happen to her? Nothing. She'll be working on some other story today, and people will pretend she's an actual reporter.
Yes, I mean, and like I said, but now the conundrum she's in now is she's always just dismissed me. Like when those emails came out, it was, well, those are fake. They're coming from the white supremacist. Now, yesterday, they're coming from NBC, and she's like, well, what's going on here? And
really?
Oh, yeah, she's freaking out about this.
And I'm going to be honest, it is exhausting. My day consists of waking up to white supremacists all over my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, who are like, give it up. You owe the town an apology. It was suicide. From that to breaking news, the DA's office just gave us something else.
There you go.
Yeah, what a day in the life.
That's Monica Cannon Grant, who's exhausted because between all these hustles and these in these scams she's running, she gets tweets,
turtle emojis.
she gets turtle emojis, you know, from white supremacists. It is remarkable what she gets away with. If you weren't out there, Turtle Boy, there'd be no pushback from the scam artist. It's incredible. No. And Benjamin Crump can't save them, right? Do you think that his presence makes any difference?
Yeah, it would have made a difference like a week or so ago before the medical examiner's report came out. Now they're just playing. Now they just look ridiculous. Like once the medical examiner literally said this was suicide, nobody's buying into this anymore.
You're talking
Turtle Boy. But Turtle Boy, what we really need is an independent investigation.
What do they think a medical examiner is? Who do they think the medical examiner works for? Of course, they are independent. The district attorney's office is independent. That's the whole point of its existence. It's independent.
That's such a good point when you think about it. The day after we got an independent investigation, they called in Benjamin Crump and repeated the same lies with one goal in mind, at least a couple of goals. But first and foremost is the GoFundMe. What's that up to?
58,000 last I saw, probably over 60 now, I'm guessing.
Over 60,000 people are donating to the mother. And before we wrap this up, remind me again what the mother did. Beat her with a baseball bat?
Well, either bat or hat kind of makes a difference. She hit her with some object.
She hit her. She was arrested.
She was arrested, charged, and had her kid taken away from her for a bit. Was in DCF custody. And on top of that,
I can't keep track of Monica Cannon Grant's how she words the DCF investigation, like why it's
not a big deal. Oh, it was going to be dismissed.
Yeah, I don't get it.
She says it was going to be dismissed, but it wasn't because of COVID. And now they're not dismissing it. Oh, it's just child abuse. I mean, who cares? Well, and she keeps saying, well, that was in 2020. That was a long time ago. She was a child abuser last year, so it's not a big deal.
So it's incredible. Like it's like the mother of Michaela Bryant, who didn't have custody and was a terrible mother. And as soon as her daughter's dead, I mean, literally minutes later, it's on TV saying how they had a great relationship and she just wants an independent investigation, not money, but that would be nice. We just want the truth. That's all, Turtle Boy. We just want the facts.
Well, good luck finding it.
And I'll bet you Benjamin Crump, after when he was done yesterday, just said, "There's no money in this. I'm done here. I should go back to wherever."
Yeah, but I was actually gonna say, I don't think the story has actually picked up the way they wanted it to. The Turtle Boys point, like they're getting Turtle Riders commenting and nobody else is commenting or liking on these stories. But the Boston Globe today asked the question, was she lynched because of Ben Crump yesterday? So does it spiral? I know, but I'm just saying, if the Globe writes that, does that start? Because you could hear in the voice, I don't know how much of it you listen to, Gerry. You could hear in the voice of the reporters, like Byron Burnett's asking a question from 7 News. And he's like, if you don't think it was suicide, what do you think it was? And his voice was like, just tell me whatever you're going to lie about, because I don't believe you. You know what I mean? Like,
can I hear Crump? I'd like to hear Crump.
Yeah.
I mean, does it sound like his heart is in it?
Calvin and the family of Michaela Miller want to know is, was she lynched? And if she was, why aren't we saying that?
Jesus.
They do not believe she committed suicide, as has been quickly determined by the local officials.
That was the big thing, was that the fact that the police told the mother it was a suicide the night of so quickly, and then ruled through the medical examination that it was a suicide. But it can't be the truth because they said it so quickly after they found her. It's just...
But on Tuesday, and I guarantee he was already scheduled to make this appearance. On Tuesday, we got what everyone was waiting for. We got the medical examiner's report.
Yep.
The independent investigation was complete. It was ruled a suicide. And by the way, if you read Turtle Boy, there's lots of other evidence. It's not just the autopsy and the medical examiner's report. There's emails. There's all kinds of evidence from her girlfriend, from the school. I mean, everybody knows. Everybody knows. The cops, the school, the friends, the family, the mother. Everybody knows this is a charade. They're just making this up, and certainly in the case of Benjamin Crump, in hopes of getting money from somebody. I'll bet you when he was finished yesterday, he said, "Who are we going to sue now? How am I going to get my cut?" Because they don't have anywhere to go with this. They really don't. And in large part, thanks to Turtle Boy. But as you point out, the other media members, certainly, I mean, maybe not the Globe, but the other media members are looking at this going, they're really still running this crap by us, this suicide, this lynching. And I'll say it again, if they were telling the truth, it would be the biggest story in the world, on planet Earth. Bigger, at least in this country, it'd be bigger than anything. A group of white teenagers, and they're not all white, but that's what Monica Cannon Grant says, lynched a black girl. It'd be the biggest story in the world. But everybody knows it's a load of crap, and they're hoping to somehow cash in. Again, I guess that GoFundMe's hasn't grown quickly enough, so they're looking for someone to sue, and I don't think they're going to find anybody. Maybe I don't know, maybe the school or somebody who ignored her cries for help. But a mother who was arrested for assaulting her child doesn't have a lot.
I'll tell you what, the ex-girlfriend, Turtle Boy's right. She definitely has grounds to sue for a lot of different. I mean, sending the email
that would be nice.
Counselor, and yeah. So it's
how about defamation? How about people calling her a murderer? That maybe she has a case. That'd be great to see the ex-girlfriend, who by all accounts is grieving and hurting, and while she has to go through all that, she has elected officials calling her a murderer. So good luck to that girl. And if you want to read more, if you want to just read what matters, read TV Daily News, because the other media outlets are either ignoring it or stealing it. So if you want to know what we're talking about, if you want to know just the most outrageous story you've seen in a long time, go to Turtle Boy, go to TV Daily News and read about Michaela Miller and these grifters like Ben Crump and Monica Cannon Grant. But all right, Callahan, you've been monitoring Matty Siegel. Is he still at work, or is he still
he's still at work? He's still talking about how cool Barstool Sports is from all
oh, really?
And there's nothing else to be there's nothing else to be said.
Well, that is true. I don't think his audience necessarily is a big crossover with Barstool. Maybe there is with you, but for most, I mean, they target women. They target young women, and they do it very, very well. I think storming off the set is, cardinal sin. You don't do that in radio or TV.
That's a great reason to storm off the set. That is a great reason to storm.
I was going to say, but once in 40 years, gets your attention. It's not like he's not like Gary Tangway doing it every 3 days. He's not like, lots of people have stormed out, like Piers Morgan, who stormed out over over a little dispute. He couldn't sit there and debate.
It was so petty that I didn't grab it. And I don't know, you and I, he said he was angry because there was media coverage saying that he could have made it up. And it's like, what a dumb thing. He could not have been really angry that some stupid online website questioned if it was a gimmick or something like that.
They always do that. They always do. They always say, is this... Because, let's be honest, there are oftentimes things like this are staged. But if you hear it, it's not staged. If you hear him today, it wasn't staged. Here's what I wonder. And I've said this about some other people. Like I said this about, like my old friend Bob Ryan, who was suspended once by the Boston Globe. It was so outrageous. He was just, ranting the way Bob Ryan does. And Bob Ryan, respected by everybody, just a good guy. And they suspended him for a month. And I remember I wrote about it for the Boston Herald, how ridiculous it was that the Globe did this to their own guy, a loyal guy. And I think it hurt him forever. After that, he's obviously still around, but I think he never, forgot how his own employer, he'd been so loyal to them. He'd never left, he left briefly to go to TV, but he would never badmouth the Globe, which certainly deserves it. And I said what they did to him was cruel. They cut his heart out for a while. And you see that occasionally in media where people get admonished over something or disciplined, and they just don't ever come back from it. They're just hesitant. I say that about, people at my old radio station. They're all kind of walking on eggshells wondering, who's going to be next. We found out it was Dale Arnold. He didn't do anything to earn that, but they're just whacking people.
Ratings will do it.
Yeah, well, then how is anybody still there if it's just about rating? But when you get disciplined or dressed down for speaking your mind, it puts something in the back of your mind, and you never quite feel quite as loose and free again. And it hurts. And Siegel sounds to me today like he has not gotten over this, that his boss, who's probably 30 years younger than he is and hasn't been around and done as much, is telling him, you can't do that. And that is that hurts the process of speaking freely, of speaking your mind and being honest and being funny and being spontaneous. He's not going to be quite the same. It's like anybody else who goes through these kinds of things, they come back and they're never quite the same.
Yeah.
And he's, on the back nine. Obviously, he's not going to be around much longer anyway. I assume he's got a plan to retire at some point and enjoy his millions. But he sounds, genuinely hurt by this idea that we don't trust you to not say the wrong thing. So we're going to send this young PD. He's going to call you up and say, you can't do that. And he sounds like it is a kind of an unusual occurrence that he's going to hear from his boss and tell him to don't go there. And he's not going to be spontaneous anymore. He's going to be careful. He's going to be hesitant. And that's a problem.
Well, this one probably just lined up. Unfortunately, it's kind of like it's in the top 40 wheelhouse, right? Which is Demi Lovato. If she's going to be a trending story on the internet, you have to talk about it no matter what the issue is.
Especially if you're him. Kiss 108.
Correct. Like if it's anybody else other than Demi Lovato, it doesn't even come up on the show. To your point earlier, it doesn't even come up. So it was just kind of a timing thing. But I don't know. At the end of the day, Maddie is not like you. As a talk show host, you're going to dive into an issue and speak freely yourself, and you're going to be talking about it at length. Maddie doesn't really wake up in the morning thinking, am I going to get in trouble today? No matter what the friggin' story is.
Well, I know.
So it's an accident.
I'm saying I don't think he did until now. Now. So what happens today if there's a big Demi Lovato story? It's like, I after
if a trans story comes up, he brings up the fact that this happened and that he's not going to talk about it. He will say that. He's honest. To your point, it's honest.
I mean, we obviously got in trouble talking about the transgender issue because we said a 4-year-old child shouldn't transition. We literally got I'm literally sitting here with you because I said a 4-year-old child should not transition. I mean, we did it. We expanded on it. We mocked the parents who were doing this, especially the mother who was doing this with her child and telling the Boston Globe about it, bragging about her 4-year-old son becoming a girl, and thought it was ridiculous for a 4-year-old. I still think that most people do, but these are the rules. Now, you don't do transgender issues unless you're prepared to drop on your knees and worship anybody who transitions. If you don't say it's a wonderful thing, a great thing, and perfect, and they're great, and applaud them, and say anyone who disagrees is an Neanderthal and a bigot. If you don't do that, you're going to find some pushback and some problems. And Maddie learned that, even though she's not transitioning, she's just changing her pronouns. But even that you can't make fun of. That's the rules now. And I was on the air once after, we went through everything. Well, the sensitivity training and the meetings and everything about this. We had to meet with transgender activists and do all this. I mean, we just bent over backwards. And I was on the air, and the subject came up about, I think it was about the Connecticut biological boys, trans girls who were kicking ass on track meets. It's obviously unfair. It's obviously ridiculous that, the girls, I mean, I was defending girls sports, girls in general. They were getting their asses kicked by these transgender girls, these biological boys. And obviously I'm saying how unfair that is, kind of like Caitlyn Jenner just said, a week or two ago, kind of like everybody says. It's just not fair when you have somebody bigger, stronger, faster kicking your ass and costing these girls, state championships, maybe chances at scholarships. We were discussing it. It was a big deal. And I get the general manager on the phone at the break saying, you can't do this. And I'm going, what? I mean, it's the big story. It's the big story today. We have to. No, get off this. So what the transgender activists, or just the extremists on the left, the real radical fringe, and that would be, activists, that would be the Boston Globe, New York Times, what they've done is made it so that you either are on their side or you are silent. That's the deal. And it's worked. I mean, again, they just shut up Maddie Siegel. Maddie Siegel can't do transgender talk today or next or tomorrow, and he probably won't care because, again, he's a very pragmatic guy. He's going to say, I'm making a lot of money. I'll stay away from that. But the word is out. Comedians can't do it. I mean, you've heard Joe Rogan say it many times, Dave Chappelle. Chris Rock just yesterday said how everything is so boring now because of cancel culture. You can't joke. You have a huge pop star who wants everyone to call her they, and you have to respect it, because if you don't, you will be silenced. There'll be no debate. There'll be no disagreement. You can't say, well, can we talk about this? No, you cannot talk about it.
But it's because something might happen if you do. It's not because something happened. It's because something might happen if you say something that goes against the mob.
This is a great example, not just my situation, but this is a great example of how cancel culture works. So if Maddie Siegel, and maybe it's, he moves on from this, but if he did it again, if he doubled down, there would be a campaign to get him off the air, and it might not succeed to get him fired, but it would silence him. He would definitely, if he wanted to continue to make his millions, he would stay away from certain subjects, or he would completely flip and say, this is wonderful. Whatever Ellen Page became Elliot. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that glorious? If you don't say that, they'll come in after you. We know that. It's amazing. This is the greatest example ever of the tyranny of the minority. There's very few people who think it's right and just and fair for biological boys to beat the girls in whatever, track or basketball or weightlifting. And we're going to see it in the Olympics. In the Summer Olympics, there's a bunch of trans females, biological males who are hoping to get to the Olympics, including this weightlifter who's dominating. and clearly has more muscle and is stronger than the biological girls, but you cannot say that's wrong. That's not fair. That person shouldn't be in there, or they'll come after you. And Maddie learned that. And I think, comedians know it now, and they're speaking out. I mean, what Joe Rogan says, it's amazing. It makes big news when he says, oh yeah, now if you're a whatever he said, single, if you're a straight white male, you can't say anything. He just states the obvious, and they come after him because he's a big name, and he's kind of a barometer of which way things are going. If you can get Joe Rogan to back down or apologize or flip like he did with the vaccines, then everyone else will just fall in line. Then maybe, I don't know about Dave Chappelle, but others will see that and say, boy, if they can get Rogan to change his tune, they can get anybody. And I think that's why they come hard at Rogan when he steps out of line. When he says 20-year-olds shouldn't get vaccinated, or white guys can't say anything, it's nothing real outrageous. It's nothing thousands of us haven't said. But again, if they can shut him up or get him to back down, then they can get anybody. Yeah. And I think that's and you said it
would be fantastic if people realize like there is something awesome in the world, right? In radio, if you're driving in your car, you can turn the dial and you can change to a different station. It's this revolutionary. On television, there's a remote for it, actually, Gerry. You can, even nowadays, you can speak into it, which is wild.
Well, and I said that when I got fired, and that was my Twitter bio, was if a conservative doesn't like a radio show, he turns the station. And if a liberal doesn't like a show, he demands it be taken off the air. He demands, he forms a mob, he starts a campaign, and he takes them off the air. The cancel culture only works one way. There's no cancel culture for left wingers, for liberals. There is none. There's no liberal. You can't find a liberal who's been canceled, for something they said. That doesn't work. It only goes one way, and it's scary, and it's more intimidating and effective than ever. They didn't get Maddie, which is good. They didn't cancel Maddie. They didn't get him fired or quit. And I hope he hangs in there, and I hope he doesn't apologize. And I hope if there's a big story involving Demi Lovato or Elliot Page or Caitlyn Jenner today, he has the same sense of humor, the same sense of sarcasm that he normally does. But we'll see. We will see. All right, one more thing before we wrap this up, Callahan. And are you listening to Maddie with one ear? Because
I'm peeking at my
what? No, you know what? Don't worry about it. He has said what he said. I salute him, and I'm sure he's moving on. He's not gonna screw this up.
He's gonna be way more pissed that we compared him to Delilah than anything that happened yesterday.
Well, I love that part of his statement yesterday where he said, "You want a show with no controversy or no opinions? They got those. Go to Magic or go to whatever the other station. Go."
You should have said WEI. That would have been fantastic.
That would have been good, right? No kidding. But he's thinking of his competition for women, and he's right. I mean, the reason he wins is because he's got a personality and he's got a sense of humor. The rest of them are just cookie cutter. Here's the next song, and here's the weather, and got some tickets to the big Bieber show and that kind of thing.
Actually, before you move on, because this actually I thought was a good point, and we get in the weeds about media because we were whatever. Radio Watch tweeted this out yesterday. He's something about you with EEI and cancel culture or whatever. But then what happens to Boston radio if Matt Siegel leaves? Like, honest to God, where does radio go as an industry? Matty is literally the last one in Boston.
He's going to leave eventually. I mean, as Charles de Gaulle said, the cemeteries are full of indispensable men or irreplaceable men. Everybody's replaceable.
I believe that, but I do think there's a major impact on radio in a major market like Boston if he leaves.
Well, I said this to Shattuck. You know what else is a factor is, do they have a plan B? Because if they have a guy ready to step in, say like a midday guy, and I wouldn't know because I'm not a big listener, or an afternoon guy or a co-host ready to step in, then they wouldn't hesitate to pull the trigger because they know all it does is accelerate the process. They know Maddie's old and he's going to step down sooner or later. So they said, okay, in order to get these activists to get the globe off our back, we'll move to plan B now. It'll cost us some advertisers or some money or ratings, but they got to do it eventually anyway. It just might move the process up, but we'll see. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he's standing firm and so far has not apologized. Maybe we'll hear the sound, which would be nice, of him joking about about Demi Lovato. We haven't heard that yet, right? Am
No.
I right?
No,
No.
but I think I would crush it in Morning Drive personally. So I don't know if anybody
Yeah,
listens.
you might be on the list because I know they listened and watched the hits every day, so they might be thinking
No,
you would.
Listen, I tweeted out. I got a call yesterday. It was from Medford. I don't know who it was. But
How many job offers are you going to be, sifting through?
leverage is a great thing, Jerry. Leverage is a great thing in this
That's
world.
true. That's all I explained to my old friend Mutt. Leverage is all that matters. But all right, before we go, we got to play this sound because if you haven't seen it, there were reports the other day, and I think the New York Times was it New York some left wing outfit. I think it was the New York Times or Daily Beast or someone who said that Biden behind closed doors has got a short temper. He's snapping at staffers, and that means he is going off the handle big time. If the media is going to admit that Biden has a temper and he's jumping down people's throats, that means he is really ripping people's faces off. And I'm just going to say that's not a surprise. I have seen it. It's a symptom of dementia. When you're old and the darkness is falling on you, people get really frustrated, mainly because they can't do things they used to be able to do, such as recall certain things or whatever, be able to articulate certain things, and they get frustrated. And nurses have to deal with this every day in nursing homes. They could be the sweetest old lady in the world, but they get a little frustrated, and sometimes they fly off the handle. I'm not surprised. I know it's true. I understand it's going to get worse, as I've said many times. This doesn't get better. But here's an example of it. And do you want to play the whole thing with Reagan and Biden? Because Biden was speaking to the Coast Guard Academy graduation, and he totally botched a line from Reagan or from whoever. Reagan, it's an old line, but Reagan used it at a graduation. He used it beautifully the way he often did. Reagan was 77 when he did this. Biden is 78. Reagan did it seamlessly, got a big laugh. Biden saw that and said he's going to do the same thing, and it didn't work out quite so well for Dementia Joe.
My Coast Guard aides have been excellent. One of them taught me that, and I quote, "The Coast Guard is that hard nucleus about which the Navy forms in time of war."
I can only assume that you will enjoy educating your family about how the Coast Guard is, quote, "the hard nucleus around the Navy forms in times of war." You're a really dull class.
He gets a little snippy because they didn't laugh, but he botched the thing. I mean, he didn't get the line, and they were like, "What did he just say?" And he says, "You're a dull class." But you're going to see that more and more. He's going to get very frustrated. We've seen it already with the media when they're not, totally flating him. He gets upset. By the way, did we play that yesterday? We did, right? The sound when he was driving the truck on the track.
Yes. Yep.
Ford F-150, and everybody was talking about the joke he made about running over the reporter. It was dumb. I didn't get, and clearly it would be a big deal if Trump did it, but whatever. You get used to the double standard. It wasn't really even a joke. There was no funny part. He just said, she said, "Can I ask you about the Israeli, Palestinian conflict?" He said, "Yeah, but, if I'll run you over or something." It was dumb. And most of the media didn't finish the cut because after he drives away, the media laughs hysterically and starts cheering. The media is cheering for Joe Biden because he's driving a truck on an empty track. And it was just bizarre. I mean, they just love, I don't know if they love the man or they just feel so happy every day that he's not Donald Trump. But that's the kind of coverage, that's the kind of reaction they get from Biden, even when he's not even a little bit funny. He's not funny. Even if you're a huge Biden supporter and you hate Trump, you got to admit Trump was funny, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, but he was genuinely funny. Biden tries to be funny, he thinks he's funny, and he's not. And that's always awkward, when someone is like that. So, I've often said one of my big pet peeves about comedians is the ones who get mad at the audience because they didn't laugh at their joke. Well, maybe a joke wasn't funny. And as soon as I'd see that, like if I'm at a comedy show and it's some lame comedian and they say, that was a joke. That was a joke because no one's laughing. You go, okay, that's on you. If no one's laughing, that's on you. It's not their fault. you got to do better. And I would say the same thing about the commander in chief and those Coast Guard. I think they ended up fake laughing at some of Biden's lines, but they were sitting there going, what the hell is he saying? I don't get it. It didn't work, Joe. It didn't work. But anyway, we will leave it there, and we'll be watching and listening to hear, or Dave will, I'm not, but Dave will be listening to Matty Siegel today and the rest of today and tomorrow to see if how it all plays out. And again, he could have done it. He could have lied. He could have said whatever, done this, and I'm on principle or whatever. But he told the truth. He's coming back for the money. He wants to do it because he wants to give his kids more money. I'm just going to guess that his kids are going to be fine. That Matty's been doing it 40 years, and he was the highest paid guy in town for most of that, or has been. I'm just going to guess Matty, his wife, his kids, they're going to be fine.
There's no like normal, I don't know if I want to call it decency, but like I just envision my dad reading that story and just not being like, it's not a negative thing or a positive thing. It's literally being clueless as to what he's reading. And maybe we can make an argument that educating ourselves can change our mind to some extent.
About Demi Lovato, how could you though? Like I did, we started the show trying to read it. And it's so awkward to say they when you're talking about one person. I'll say it again, Demi to Demi and anybody, non-binary. Come up with another way of doing it. You really want to not be a he or she. Why don't we come up with a third pronoun that's not plural? Is that asking too much? Because it's really, really awkward to try and call you they, because every time you do it, I wonder who are the other people? Who are you talking about? It can't be just you because it's plural. But maybe that's me because I'm old and I'm white and I don't understand.
I don't think the thing to watch will be Maddie's response. I think the thing to watch will be, does it pick up steam? Because I've been kind of, one of the local sites, Universal Hub, is a good site to go to locally. The comments in there are just absolutely bludgeoning Maddie. And just,
really?
I'm sure Boston Globes is. And this is a guy that, is endearing to most people in this city. He has that great kind of pessimism that a Bostonian has in Morning Drive that works in this city, in my opinion. And so it's shocking to see the reaction just killing him. And
you're right. And the other thing is, and I've been through this before, where you say something controversial and you, at least in the old days, it was harder for people to get a hold of the sound. And you'd sit there and you'd wait, and the program director would wait and say, well, we'll see if they get a hold of the sound. And if they do, it's a much bigger issue. If they don't, like, the famous thing that I said about about a munchkin.
Yes.
They never got a hold of it. They don't know what I said. The Globe wrote, 5 stories talking about me saying something offensive about a donut, but they don't even know what I said. They never found it. They never got the sound. And we talked about it and people joke about it, but literally they would criticize me for making fun of a donut, but they don't know exactly what I said. And I never told them and I never will. I know what I said. Everyone in the studio knew what I said, but the Globe couldn't find out, and they tried. But you know what? They don't have any real, good reporters who are going to track it down, and they just give up and say, yeah, he said something that was offensive about a donut. And if they can't get the Maddie sound in, then it'll go away. It'll blow away. But if they do, it'll mean another story. Day 2, day 3.
You never know with these issues. I wouldn't bet against any of this stuff. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't gamble any of it. So
I agree. All right, we'll leave it there. We'll let you get back to negotiating. You got all those offers to sift through, and I'm sure I'll be the first to know when you decide. Of course, you could use that leverage against me, but I don't know if I can compete with iHeart or Barstool, but
it's tough. Yeah, that'd be a tough one. So
yes, would you get to hang out with Jerry
Thornton?
I mean,
if Matty Siegel is saying, if Barstool's talking about me, I've made it. I think. Come on. I mean, I think.
I know. I don't know any of your friends. I've met a couple, but I don't know them. I know that every single one of them would be very, very impressed if you said, yes, I work for Barstool. They would be in awe. They'd say, oh wow, did you get to meet K Marco? Don't tell me you met PFT.
Where is K Marco these days? Yes, yeah.
I don't even know who that is. I just see these, these Twitter handles occasionally, and they'll be saying, "You got to meet PFT. What's he like?" It would be game changing for you, and you wouldn't even care what they paid you or what they made you do. You just want to be in the family, and that would. And look at you. I can see right now.
Just
the
for one,
thought of being-
just as a disclaimer, I do care what they pay me because there are some ongoing things. All right, I want you to don't ruin my leverage. All right, you're a former co-host of yours didn't understand leverage. I understand leverage. All right, so why don't you stop ruining it? All right.
Well, I know what they might pay you, and if they do, I think you'll be pretty damn happy. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. We'll keep everybody updated on Dave's the flirting Dave is doing with Barstool, and we'll see how that goes. But we will leave it there for today. Thanks to Turtle Boy and thanks to TCU and Allied Paving and Shea Concrete. Thanks to everybody for listening and watching on YouTube. Like us, subscribe on YouTube, and go to Apple Podcasts and give us a review, hopefully a 5-star rating and a review. We could always use more of those. Once in a while, we like to beg. You can follow us on Twitter. Dave's on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. Just go to use our name. That's all you got to do. And you can follow the show. We need to get that account pumped up a little. The show is what? Callahan Podcast?
Callahan Podcast. Yes.
You
Callahan.
can follow the show. Dave tweets out little excerpts
Yes.
now and then. We'll have a few of those later today, I'm sure. All right. Thanks to everybody. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you again real soon.